letting the body soften. The mind is always trying to figure things out, always trying to understand things. And then the mind, just by doing that, turns life into a problem that needs to be solved somehow. But life has never been a problem that needs to be solved or analyzed. But the mind only knows that. Finding problems so that it can fix it, it can solve it, it can dissect it. It always tries to understand. But what if, at its core, life was not to be understood? What if it was to be felt, to be lived, to be enjoyed, and not so much understood or analyzed? So we're simply letting the mind have a break from all the extra work that it's doing all the time. What if simply noticing the breath, noticing this moment, what if simply being here was already more than enough? So that's what we are exploring when we close our eyes. Not to escape from life, but to actually become more intimate with life. Bringing gentleness into this experience. Going nowhere, doing nothing. Going nowhere, doing nothing, being nobody. We're always trying to be something, be someone. Always prove something to ourselves, to others. What if so much of that was actually part of our suffering? What if so much of that was absolutely unnecessary? So here we are exploring this possibility that maybe we are already enough, just as we are, without having to go somewhere, be something. And maybe in that enoughness, there's a feeling of sacredness in that, a sense of wholeness. A feeling that there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with our thoughts, with our emotions. Nothing wrong. There's no error in the system. Noticing your back supporting you, your spine supporting you. And then your whole body is resting on that support. So the shoulders can soften, all the muscles can soften, and your body, your back still keeps you upright, awake, alert. It keeps you present, here, showing up. And then the breath becomes deeper on its own, simply because we are resting, relaxing. And then the mind begins to get more quiet. Not because we're trying to change anything. Not because we're trying to calm the mind, but it simply happens on its own. The mind can get very quiet in moments like these. Gently noticing anything that you're feeling right now, sensations, emotion, maybe heaviness or tension somewhere in the body. Simply noticing. So there is something in here, in all of us, or as all of us. There is something that belongs to life itself that is much deeper than the mind, that is much deeper than the intellect, that is much deeper than identity even. When I say my name is Cenk, I was born there, I was born at this time. All my identity and everything that I know about myself, that I can use language and words to tell that story, right? There's something much, much, much deeper than all of that. And that thing, that depth, belongs to life. It's not only human. It's not only because we are human. It is the sacredness of life itself. We can call it universal consciousness, we can call it God, cosmic energy. It doesn't matter what we say, because no word can define it. Because it's the only thing that there is. Outside of that, there's nothing else. So it's always here, always, 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 everywhere. Yeah. When a human being experiences this, sometimes we say, I feel at peace, or I feel this very deep joy, or quiet mind, or stillness. And people start talking about awakening and spirituality and Buddhism and enlightenment, God and all the rest. But this is actually something so simple. And sometimes when teachings become too complicated, they can miss how simple it is. This presence that we are. Because a lot of teachings, they can get very intellectual very quickly. And then the intellect then skips over what is so simple and always here. The mind thinks that it's somewhere else. The mind begins to think that it needs to figure it out, like a scientist in a lab, through more elaborate thinking. But life is already here, it's already happening. This is already what it is, right? It's already here. It's much more immediate than we think. So why I'm talking about all this is because this talk is about sacred intimacy. And so much of this has a lot to do with the sacred part of that. The sacred part of sacred intimacy has so much to do with this inner silence. I call it the radiant silence. It's radiant. It is very quiet, but it's not dead. In that sense, it's not empty. It's full of life. It's full of aliveness. It's radiant. It's like a diamond that shines. But it's very quiet at the same time. This inner quiet, as a human being, we can experience it as this very quiet place inside. Yeah. Has anyone here been to a meditation retreat? Yeah? 10-day, 5-day, 3-day, a meditation retreat, yeah. So during a meditation retreat, especially, it's like, I don't know, at least 3 days or whatever. 3 days, 5 days, 10 days. The longer that it is, the more there's a likelihood that during that time we're going to encounter something in us that in our day-to-day functioning we don't often encounter. And for a lot of people, that it is that this inner silence. I've had a lot of moments since I started meditating when I was 19. I had a lot of moments over the last 20 years where during a course I might be sitting there with busy mind and everything all over the place, and then in one moment, out of the blue, all thoughts vanish. All thoughts. Not even one thought. And then in that moment, who am I? Because when all my thoughts are gone, how can I even define myself? So there is something very deep in us that is life itself, that is beyond our personal history. It is so much deeper than what is my name, where I'm from, or at what time I was born and where. And it is so much deeper than all of that. Just like love. Love is so much deeper than all the details. So we are here to talk about the sacredness. We are also here to talk about love. And yet these things cannot be talked about. Because to talk about something, we have to objectify it. That's how mind works. Words and thinking, it works in abstraction and image. Language is a system of abstraction. And language works only by contrasting everything. To define black, I have to define all the other colors. Only then I can understand what is black. To define white, right? To talk about the taste of vanilla, we need to agree about the taste of everything else. So language as an energy is very tricky, and it works only through abstraction. But what if life itself cannot be abstracted like an object? Right? Because for me to talk about life, it has to be separated from me. I am here and life is out there. And we always live in this duality. I am here, life is out there. I am here, you are out there. Separate from me. Or enlightenment is out there somewhere in the future. What I'm looking for is always somewhere else. Right? We always live in points, point A and point B. But there's a different way of experiencing life, where it's not only about points and it's not only so linear, past, present, future, and here I am coming from there and going to some other place. So when people experience this inner silence or sacredness or love in its very deep quality, even the sense of I am here and you are there begins to dissolve. So we are here to talk about sacred intimacy, which is a paradigm shift in how we can have a romantic relationship. It's a paradigm shift because it's a different energy. And this energy started to become active in me about a year ago. About 6 months ago. And it's somehow starting to become very strong. And when it started to become really strong, this new paradigm that I was not even looking for, I was only trying to heal. I was only trying to heal my traumas and emotional baggage and all that. I only wanted to come to the end of suffering somehow, or alleviate my suffering a little bit. So I've been a meditator for 20 years, very strong Buddhist practice, so that I can suffer a bit less. And to my surprise, somehow, something very extraordinary compared to how I used to live has started in my life. And since that started, I cannot help but I want to share it. Or I can even say it wants to share itself. It wants to talk about itself continuously. And I've always been very interested in romantic relationships because that's where I suffered the most. I always suffered. Academically, I was a great student and this amazing friend to a lot of people, this and that. But when it came to romantic relationships, I had a lot of challenges. I didn't know about my emotions. I had trauma. I would get reactive. I would shut down. I would get defensive if someone challenged me. So when I started healing all those wounds so that I can have better romantic relationships, somehow this new reality started to open up. And within this new reality, this new energy of sacredness and love, there's not a lot of space for mind-based living. And when I look back into my life, my entire life I lived from the mind. I was the mind. I was so identified with my intellect and everything that my intellect told me about myself, who I am, who I should be. So again, these are points, right? We are always living in points. Who I am now, who I should be. There's so much from A to B. It's as if my entire life is about somehow not being who I am and trying to become something else. So in this new paradigm, all that is getting dissolved. When all that gets dissolved, the future, it's as if the future, which is always an imaginary energy, the future is collapsing. When the future collapses, there is only this moment. And in this moment, we are the way that we are. There's not like 10 versions to choose from. I am who I am in this moment. And then we can only show up like that. So life has become really simple. Last week I talked a lot about this. Life has become really simple. If I get hurt, I tell my friend who hurt me, hey, I felt hurt by what you said yesterday. Very simple. If I have a relationship in my life, if it's not working for a long time, if I tried everything, it still doesn't work, I say goodbye to that person. Very simple. If I feel angry, I work with my anger. And then maybe 2 hours later, my anger dissolves. If I feel regret, maybe I go apologize. Hey, I'm sorry I told you, I talked to you like this yesterday. I'm so sorry I was being reactive. I might apologize. So, if I don't like where I'm living, I move to somewhere else. So what's happening is that there's no drama. There's no drama because the mind doesn't come in every moment to try to figure things out. The mind is not creating unnecessary scenarios around every moment of my day. The mind is not looking at me and going, this is wrong, this shouldn't be there, that you should become this, you should. All the images and all the sense that there is something wrong in here is no longer happening. So life becomes very easy, very flowy, and actually very simple. And in that simplicity, there's a lot of joy. But not because somehow I found something magical or extraordinary or special. It's just that all the bullshit is no longer there. All the bullshit that we call our suffering, our internal complications. We are very complicated inside. And that complication creates suffering. But we can become very simple. So what's been happening to me is that it's not somehow that I'm gaining something that I didn't have. It's that I've been losing everything I've ever had. And with that loss, what's always been there is showing itself. But because this has always been there, this innocence, like a child. Right? When we look at the Dalai Lama, he's like 90-something-year-old now, maybe. He's really like a child. But he's also a really mature adult at the same time. So that's the paradigm we're talking about. Because that's the paradigm of sacred intimacy. It's a paradigm where we connect with our childhood innocence, but this time as an adult, having our adult capacities. Because a child doesn't have adult capacity. So this innocence is not like a childish innocence, but it's very childlike. And within this innocence, I don't know anything. Sometimes I'm walking down the street, I have no idea where I'm going or who I am. But not like a sick person, not like a confused person. It's only because my definitions about who I am or who I should be have been dissolving, and in that dissolving, the mind is now free. The mind is just spacious instead of being full of garbage, full of judgments about self or others or the world, about everything that I don't like. Instead of that, the mind is completely spacious, and in that spaciousness, there is not even self-definitions. So, sacred intimacy is as much an emotional shift as much as it is a spiritual paradigm shift as well. Because it's about something that is sacred. So when I was thinking about the name for this workshop, I knew immediately that the word sacred had to be in it. Because a lot of my romantic relationships and the way that I've lived in the past didn't have so strongly this energy of the sacred. So I knew that, okay, this is the thing that is radically different. And this is the thing that I want to be talking about. The element of sacred. So we can say that this is a relationship for two people. Sacred monogamy, right? This is a monogamous relationship. In sacred monogamy, there is two people. But the container of the relationship, the context for the relationship, is life itself. In other words, we can say it's love itself. Or God itself. That's the part where the sacredness is. Because otherwise, this would be any other romantic relationship. And it isn't. It has nothing to do with any other romantic relationship. And everything to do with life's own beauty. So, it is inherently spiritual, inherently religious, but in its healthy use of the word. Religious doesn't mean blindly believing something that someone tells me. I'm talking about the core of every religion, the spiritual core of life. And because we have all been kids, children, we know exactly what I'm talking about. Your mind might come in and complicate what I'm saying. You might start thinking that you don't know what I'm talking about, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Every human being knows this. We've always known it. Always. And as the garbage is lifting from my system with healing and spiritual practice, it is becoming very obvious to me that I've always known this. And that everybody always knows it. And we are all like this, right? Fish in the water looking for water. We are like that. Whatever we're looking for, we are swimming in it. And deep down somewhere at the soul level, we actually know that. But it's our traumas that come in on top of all that the trauma comes, the wounding comes, society comes, social conditioning about how men should be, how women should be, how you should be dating, what you should be doing. All that comes as extra garbage, like dark clouds, and it prevents us from seeing this. It prevents us from very deeply recognizing that we are already at home. We are already at the place where we are looking for, actually. Which is just this feeling of being alive and being here, right? Being present or whatever. So far, any thoughts or questions? And then we're going to do a practice where you will pair up with somebody. Any thoughts, any questions? This is so far the sacred part. After this moment, I'm not going to talk so much about the sacred part. We're going to start talking about the relationship part of all of that. Any thoughts? Any questions? Okay. Yeah.
Divine union within the self and divine union with someone is something that's resonates with you?
Yes, exactly. So sacred intimacy inside, me with my emotions, me with my thoughts, sacred intimacy inside, this feeling of closeness and being at home, makes possible sacred intimacy outside. I cannot be sacredly intimate with somebody without first feeling the sacred intimacy within myself. If I am an alien to myself, alienated and isolated inside, if I don't feel at home within my own skin, within my own emotions and thoughts and being, within my body, I cannot have this profound intimacy with somebody else. So this is why healing matters huge. Profoundly important, healing, the journey of healing, the journey of getting to know our emotions, the journey of exploring our traumas. We are all traumatized. We all have it. No exception anywhere. We are all traumatized. Just watch the news. It's very obvious. This entire world is under the rubble of tremendous trauma from the past few hundred years, but it goes all the way back. All the way back and back and back and back. So just watching the news for 5 minutes, that becomes very obvious. So of course, each of us also carries some of that. So that means each of us are invited by life to take care of our own load so that we can live more joyfully. And from that place, we can contribute. Yeah. And this journey of healing and growth and awakening, part of it is psychology, part of it is spirituality. And in best scenarios, we have both. See, that's what I've been learning the past 20 years. That both are tremendously important. Not one of them, but both of them. Because we are as much God and spirit and life itself, as much as we are our own unique human being with a specific wounding from the past that needs to be healed for real joy to be embodied. Like right here, right now, like through this human being. We have a human system. So you're going to get into pairs and you will be facing each other completely. The practice is this. You are reflecting on, in this moment, what is sacred for you. When you think about the word sacred, what comes to you? What is sacred for you in your life today, right now, in this moment? Whatever comes to your mind, you share that for 4 minutes. So 2 people looking at each other, you're going to decide who goes first. And then let's say this is number 1. As number 1 is sharing for 4 minutes, and I will time you, I'll let you know. As number 1 is sharing for 4 minutes what is sacred for them in their lives, number 2 is only listening, nothing else. This is a practice of sacred listening. This person is talking, this person is listening. This person is only listening, nothing else. And then when I say to you, okay, number 2, it's your time. Then you switch. This person is sharing for 4 minutes. And now this time, this person is listening. You can go ahead. So the rest of this talk, share, relies a lot on what you like to ask. Because love is an infinite topic. Relationships are a huge topic. Massive, massive, massive. And so there's a reason why you came here. And if you are aware of that reason, and if in that reason there's a question, you can ask me. I cannot promise any incredible answer, but I'll have an answer. And maybe that answer will be helpful. Maybe not. But we'll find out together. So, anything anyone would like to share from this practice we did? What is sacred for you in your life today? What came up for you in the moment? Everybody's really shy today. Yeah.
How do we know that we have established this connection internally with the energy?
When the question disappears. When that question no longer comes up. Yeah? Makes sense?
Does.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then we are no longer looking we're no longer looking for where we are or trying to think about, am I there, am I not there? When that whole thing dissolves, we are where we have always been. Right? And that is seen as peace. Yeah.
In your definition, what's the difference between sacred union and divine union?
Oh, I use those two words as the same.
Like interchange.
Divine, sacred, yeah. 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 And now, very soon, in a few minutes, we're going to start talking about the relationship part of all this. Right? Yeah. But anything more about sacredness? When I ask people, okay, do you have any other word other than the word sacred to define sacredness? People talk about things like respect, love, family, nature is sacred. They talk about God, divine. They talk about honor, like honoring each other, honoring life, honoring the planet, honoring the food we eat. People talk about the earth, wanting to live closer to nature, things like this. Yeah, a sense of sacredness. People might talk about their own connection to spirit, to God, their own different practices, like lighting a candle before bed, praying, or some yoga practice that connects them, or spending time in nature. Whatever it might be, right? Whatever it might be for each individual, that's the most important thing. Yeah?
Interesting thing came about the sacredness when I was sharing.
Yeah.
So, sacred can be everything.
Everything.
When you are aware, when you have awareness, when you're connected to the divine consciousness, unified consciousness, and you look through the eyes of this awareness. It's the same that you're looking through the eyes of love, respect, divinity, and everything. Even this can be sacred because I'm looking at it. It's like you are connected to the light, and you are projecting this light, and whatever you look at is sacred.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Yeah, and the more that we heal and awaken, right, all of that adventure, this internal adventure, the more that every moment gets filled with life, sacredness, beauty.
The whole
present
moment, everything became sacred.
Yeah. And because of that, there is a sense of inner fulfillment. Yeah. Inner fulfillment. And we are no longer chasing experiences at that point. Right? We are no longer thinking that the next experience is going to give me all the fulfillment I'm looking for. And the same thing when it comes to romantic relationship. When we have healed to a certain degree and awakened to life's inherent beauty and wholeness, the way that it can look in the romantic relationship is we are no longer waiting for someone to come and save us. Someone to somehow come and make my life magical. Life is already magical by being very ordinary. Right? Life is very magical by being profoundly ordinary. Yeah. I call it the magic of the ordinary. Just waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth, going to bed, feeling the air on your arms. This is what we're looking for. The immediate experience of this moment. Without the mind insanity about it. Without the mind commentary about how this is not it. And what it's looking for is somewhere else. The mind creates the illusion that what it's looking for is not here. Thank you. But it's not only the mind. So the mind is criticized a lot, right? But it's not only the mind. It's also trauma. It's also fear-based living. It's emotional wounding. All that creates the feeling that what I'm looking for can never be here. I hate this moment. I hate here. I always try to get somewhere else. Right? Fear says nothing but this. Anywhere but here. Fear is always trying to get rid of, always trying to get somewhere else. Somehow, somewhere else, right? And in every religion, then the description of heaven. It's only afterlife. If you can be a nice little boy, if you can act like a nice little girl in this life, maybe you'll get the goodies there, after you die. Right? All the fairy tales and all the... Yeah. But what if what we're looking for is already here? As a universal reality. It's not about me. It's not about us individually. It's about life itself. So how can we, when we get into a romantic relationship, how can this be lived in the context of one of the most difficult things a human being can desire? An amazing romantic relationship. That's why it's so rare. Like we don't know how to do it. There's profound confusion about everything in the world, but including romantic relationships. We have no idea, absolutely no idea. And we are tremendously confused. Hollywood is a lot of it. All the movies and TV shows and all the bullshit conditioning. How men should be, women should be. And so through healing, we can get deconditioned. And we can then connect with something very natural, just like the breath. Just coming, going, this naturalness of life. So how can we be in a romantic relationship from that paradigm, from that energy? So any thoughts or questions about that? Because this is a new adventure. How can we bring sacredness, awakeness, aliveness, wholeness into romantic relationship? Wow, it's a big thing. Because a romantic relationship will trigger everything in us. Will push every button we have. It will bring up all the traumas, especially when it gets closer. Especially when the commitment deepens. Especially when people start living together, for example. Suddenly, what happened to the love? Right? We couldn't stop touching each other. 6 months later, now I don't want to see the other person. What's happening? As we get closer, as the commitment deepens, how come everything becomes so difficult? Why? Why is that the case? Because our wounding becomes more obvious. And if we're not looking at our wounding, that wounding is going to destroy the relationship. That's why we have 50% divorce rate. If the other 50% felt a little more brave, at least 45% of that would also get a divorce. If they felt just a little more brave, instead of living so much in fear, staying in a relationship feeling stuck. Yeah? So in the world, statistically, we are not doing well at all when it comes to romantic relationships. At all. So what's going wrong? What are we not seeing? What is so difficult to see that 8 billion of us are having such a hard time when it comes to romantic relationships? In terms of technology, we have advanced so much. But in this dimension of our lives, complete beginners. We are not advancing. Why? Yeah, what makes it so difficult?
I believe because of the definition of the relationship.
Definition of the relationship? Yeah.
Like mostly the definition of the relationship is seeking happiness from the relationship.
Right? We're expecting like the ultimate fulfillment from the relationship. Yeah.
But it's vice versa. It's like having evolution from the relationship.
Evolution.
This is what I believe.
I also believe that, yeah. So in the way that I talk about sacred monogamy, sacred intimacy, it's really an evolution-based relationship. It's like two people coming together, not so that finally you complete me, I complete you. That makes us addicts to each other. Not that. It's more like, oh, let's explore together as an adventure in consciousness what love is. Let's explore together. This thing that no one knows out there in society, can we innocently, without thinking that we know it, very innocently, like a beginner, in a very healthy way, with an open mind, can we explore? Who am I? What are my emotions? What is my wounding? And then that exploration can be done within the context of a romantic relationship, consciously, by sharing what our findings with each other. And that sharing, transparency and honesty between two people actually creates a lot of depth. They're not sharing because they expect the other person to be a therapist. Not because of that. They're sharing because they are creating a very conscious container for long-term committed love as life partners. If everything goes well, they can become life partners and continue being together. So the biggest difference is we have an evolutionary approach without making problems, without making my emotions a problem or her emotions a problem. There are no problems. We're simply exploring innocently, openly. So we bring curiosity into us, into our psychology, into our spirituality. Yeah? Does that make sense? It's a love-based and healing-based and evolution-based relationship. So it is very different than codependency, which is addictive. Codependency is I see my partner as the answer to all my problems. And if she's doing the same, we're fucked, right? This is the end already. Already it's the end. Yeah. Yeah. Even when we do this in friendships, we become addicted to the friend. We are trying to look at them for everything. But instead, we can look within and actually learn to be with our own pain and learn to be our own parent. This is inner child work. We all have a child in us, wounded child in us. We can learn to take care of ourselves emotionally. And when we have support from other people, that's different. Support doesn't mean I am getting addicted to them. Support means I am consciously receiving support. I'm not desperately collapsing into save me, please. Not that. So of course we want to be supported, healthy support. In fact, without receiving a lot of healthy support, healing is not possible. Yeah. So I've been healing and awakening for 20 years. I still have teachers, I still have my therapist. Sometimes I do a session with them, like receiving their support. Yeah.
I don't think we're very educated in all this, are we? I mean,
Not at all.
I'm
Yeah.
really honest here. That at times I share things with AI,
Yeah.
and it's deeply trained in, religious traditions. It's read Socratic dialogue. I mean, it's deeply seems like it can unravel a whole lot of complex stuff.
Yeah.
Emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Much better than
most humans do.
Exactly.
I completely agree.
A listener. And this is, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. It's like, wow, it fulfills a human need. You might see it on a movie and you see this person interacting with an AI, with a woman on a screen. And you think, is he gone crazy? Do you know what I mean? But it can fulfill a deep need.
It can.
For understanding.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't know how that contributes to our talk, but perhaps it speaks to human beings' deep desire to be understood.
I think hugely. Yeah. I think we all crave to be seen, to be listened to properly, right? To be honored. And it so happens that ChatGPT does that better these days than the average person out there, right? Yeah. So, but that speaks to the need for us to evolve. Relational evolution. We need to evolve relationally. Technological evolution, we are more advanced than we need. We are already more advanced than what we need as a human beings.
Can I just say that it's just come to me now that it does often encourage you, would you like to journal, would you like to do this?
Yeah,
And one might not always take that up.
yeah, sure.
But maybe it is in its own way trying to influence you towards greater engagement,
Yeah,
self-responsibility with what's coming up for you.
yeah. But nothing can replace human community, mature human community. But that's what's missing in the world. That's why I love creating areas like this, spaces like this, because mature human community is missing. Yeah? Yeah. Grounded, mature, developing and evolving human groups are missing. Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
I just have a question because, like you said, that healing is kind of only possible with healthy support, but
Yes.
what kind of healthy support do you have? Like any examples, but mostly
Yeah.
not like examples of things, but how a healthy support feels like. You know,
With very healthy boundaries.
Okay. So
For example, with very healthy boundaries. Boundaries like roles. Roles are very defined. For example, right now, my role is not the same as yours. You all have expectations from me. I am in the role of the speaker. You are in the role of listening. And then you ask questions and we have an exchange. This creates healthy boundaries. There's no confusion here about what's going to happen, who's going to do what. So in a healthy support, there is no confusion about who's getting what, who is giving what, who is receiving what. That's why my profession, I think, is very helpful. Psychotherapy, somatic therapy especially. Somatic means in the body, emotion focused. When you work with a mature professional, you get 1 hour every week from them. In that, you're not listening to them. They are listening to you. You are there to be guided. You don't have to do anything. They need to know what to do. That's why you pay. So in containers like that, where roles are very clearly defined, where you are receiving support, and you're happy with the support that you receive, I would say those are healthy containers. Because we need containers. Containers of healing. Yeah. A very healthy friendship can even be a container of healing because with our friends, we share things. But again, a professional is a different relationship still. Yeah.
So clarity plays a role.
Clarity. What am I here to receive? What is expected from me? What can I expect from the other person? And clarity creates healthy relationships with anybody. So in a sacred monogamous relationship too, healthy expectations. You know, an amazing conversation we never have in dating is, what kind of relationship do you want to create? If we can only have this conversation in the beginning of a dating, a lot of drama can be eliminated, right? A lot of drama. If we can just ask the person, what kind of relationship do you want? Right? So that we can learn so much from them and the way that they see life, love, romantic relationships. But then we will have to have some answer to give to them as well, because they're going to ask the question back. So why do I do these gatherings? Because people don't know even that sacred monogamy is on the menu. People don't even know that sacred monogamy is an option. That's why I love talking about sacred monogamy. Because sacred monogamy is radically different than any other type of relationship, including polyamory. Polyamory sometimes is seen in some circles as the epitome of, because they left behind the social conditioning of society. But polyamory, the way that I see it, from the depth of sacred monogamy, polyamory can be potentially a positive step in the right direction, for as long as we don't get stuck there. Yeah. Any thoughts or questions? So codependency is what we see everywhere. Codependency is this relationship that becomes a prison very quickly. We feel suffocated. Addictive relationship. In codependency, there's like a wall of China around the couple. Nothing can penetrate. Because we are holding on to each other so tightly. That's why we suffocate each other. We are holding on to each other so tightly. And we are also trying to secure or trying to defend the relationship from outside forces. So that my tiny bubble of illusionary happiness doesn't get impacted by other people. Right? We become really extremely jealous, for example. We become really possessive. This is codependency. This is everywhere in our society, everywhere. In a lot of novels and love stories and TV shows and movies. Codependency is what we know. So, sacred monogamy has nothing to do with that. But we need to understand codependency so deeply that when it comes up in the moment as an energy, that I can see it for what it is. Because it will come up. It will always come up. Because that's our conditioning. We need to get to know sacred codependency so deeply, and the wounding that makes that what we feel like we need, that in any conscious relationship, when it gets activated, I can catch it before it destroys my life, before it destroys my relationship.
Can you just say a bit more about it? I'm not really sure what energy you're talking about.
Codependency?
Yeah, how you recognize the energy of codependency.
Yes, the energy of codependency is like desperation. We feel desperate. Like, save me. Like, we go to our partner, save me. I'm nothing without you. You know, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, drama and pedestal. And so, literally, we become the child in us. It's a very childlike state to be in an unhealthy way. And then we lose our sense of self. So, just because for example, just because my girlfriend doesn't like a friend of mine, without challenging why you don't like him or whatever, I might just take that friend out of my life. Because what? My girlfriend doesn't like him. I will do everything to keep the relationship. That's codependency. The relationship matters most. I don't matter. The relationship matters. That's codependency. Does that make sense? Yeah? Has anyone experienced that before? Anyone experienced that before? Okay, yeah. For a lot of people, almost everyone, their first few relationships are codependent. Because that's what we know. And there's nothing wrong with that. For as long as we're learning from it. We are here to learn codependency so that we don't become codependent. Yeah. We are here to explore the wounded child in us so that the wounded child in us doesn't take over our lives. Because when the wounded child in us takes over our lives, it will destroy our lives. That's what it does. Because the child is a child. We want to live as the adult that we are. We don't want to live at the intelligence or maturity of the 5-year-old in us, or the 10-year-old, or the teenager. That kind of living is the very definition of suffering. Because developmentally, these are very early stages of human development. Yeah? I love developmental psychology because it explains so much about the state of our world. Because we don't know about development and psychology or emotions, as a whole planet, the humans on the planet, we have been frozen in earlier developmental stages, psychologically. We are frozen. Let's say I'm 40 years old. I am a building of 40 floors. Okay? I'm a building of 40 floors. We think that we live at the top. We think that somehow, yes, I'm 40 years old. Of course I behave like a 40-year-old. No, it has nothing to do with that. The earlier floors, maybe up to 20 or whatever, they're all in ruins because I never paid attention to earlier floors. There's so much wounding there. The earlier floors, they need so much maintenance. That's why life energy comes, let's say from the bottom like the roots of a tree. Life energy comes from the bottom like a fountain. It cannot even reach the top because there's so much trauma. It gets stuck. That means I get stuck emotionally. I get stuck in my maturity at age 15 or age 20. And sometimes maybe I go back to age 8. Maybe sometimes I go back to age 4. when I get reactive, when I say, I want it this way and nothing else, when we get really self-righteous. That's the child in us. So healing is all about getting in touch with the earlier floors of the building and making sure that it's well maintained, so that life energy can travel all the way up without losing its strength and power and aliveness, so that I can actually be a 40-year-old adult man today. Otherwise, I'm always much less mature than 40 years old. Yeah?
I was wondering, for me, I felt like many people around me go deep and spiritual grow or that many of them like job to have more shadows be heavier, but
Yeah.
I would say less in a way of like doing some random stuff, but in a way like being playful, being explorative.
Yeah.
Would you say this is like a step to the next, or would you say that this is healthy part of the child?
Exactly. Healthy parts of the child in us. The unwounded parts of the child. Because the child is wounded, but there is another side to the child that is unwounded. Like the joy, the ease, the openness, the innocence, the playfulness, the spontaneity. Yeah. And for a lot of people, they need to, when the healing gets deep, then we get to rediscover the positive side of the child in us. Yeah. When the healing gets deep. And in that positive child in us, there's so much vulnerability. Vulnerability in the sense that not anything negative. It's just that we are so sensitive. Because we are born very sensitive. And then we accumulated a lot of layers of numbness on top of that. With healing, that numbness dissolves. And then we reclaim and we are reunited with a profound sensitivity of a newborn child. And we can literally live like that. Yeah. My feeling is that Dalai Lama is very much in touch with that. Like, very, very much, yeah. So, he can have both worlds. Both worlds meaning the childlike qualities of innocence and profound joy, like a little boy, as well as the wisdom of an adult man, who can say no, who can say yes, who can say, I don't like that, right? Adult capacity. And we need both. I think if we want an amazing life, we need to have access to both these things. Wisdom, maturity, as well as the childlike qualities. Yeah, makes sense? Yeah. Because wisdom alone would be really boring if we can't have fun, right? And having fun alone without blindly, then we get addiction, we get addicted, we destroy our lives, we hurt other people. Yeah. Any thoughts, any questions about sacred monogamy, intimacy, emotions?
Distinction between purpose and tool comes to mind. Like when we identify with one aspect of our being, like the question we answered the phone process is we narrow our capability to one aspect of life when there's like so much range that we can explore.
Yeah.
And we lose the benefits of other modalities of our existence. So if we can integrate all of it, then as you said, when it's like Dalai Lama is full of wisdom, but it can bring a sprinkle of joy or fun into the conversation, not make the audience collapse. Is that how you are more resources?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think the deeper we go inside. Like I love depth, right? And then sometimes people say, "Well, you talk about depth all the time, but what about lightness?" But the lightness we are seeking is at the depth. The lightness and ease and the joy we are all seeking is at the same depth of healing, of awakening. Right? So the two are not separate. Spiritual awakening and healing and the child in us, these are all the same thing. It's one big package. So that's why I always advocate for, my message is, have different tools. Don't go only this. Make sure you're taking care of your spirituality with spiritual path, spiritual practice. Make sure you are healing emotionally. Make sure you're taking care of your body. Make sure you're doing this, you're doing that. So the perspective here is very comprehensive and all-inclusive. And then we are making sure that we are covering all the bases. Because as human beings, we have many dimensions. We are as much spirit as we are body. flesh and emotion and energy. All that needs to be looked at. Yeah, it's a big deal. But honestly, I cannot see any other way of living. Because for me, any other way of living is more suffering and more insanity. There is enough of that already in the world. Yeah. Any other question, comment?
How do you make choices in all of these tools? Like, when do you begin? When do you like? How do you navigate that?
You start feeling it. You start feeling what you need. If I don't exercise physically for 2-3 days, even without thinking, the next moment I'm already lifting weights. I don't even think about it. The choice is being made already because I'm noticing I need it. Right? The moment I feel like I need a therapy session, 5 minutes later it's already been booked. Like there is an intelligence inside that is naturally addressing everything. That is just being in touch is enough. Yeah, just being in touch with the natural need of the moment. Just like I feel hungry, I go eat. So simple. It's exactly in that way. Yeah.
To understand more what you want to say, that I really agree. I feel like training intuition as well.
Yeah.
Better with it. But what would you say are the good ways to go there to feel the intuition better?
To feel intuition better, healing. Healing is the big message here. Healing and ideally working with someone. I've spent 20 years in this. I've had a lot of support. A lot of support. Teachers, therapists. That's the place to go. Nothing can replace working with a qualified professional, committing to at least 1 year of weekly therapy. Nothing can replace that. Nothing. And I'm 40 years old now. I so wish that someone told me this when I was 21, when I was 19, and maybe again when I was 25. And if I didn't listen, maybe again when I was 30. Right? You don't have to wait too long to start getting into something very deep and profound. Yeah.
But sorry, could you specify how this applies to going with intuition or being more connected with it?
Yeah, because all the heaviness that we feel, all the complications, all the dark clouds, what I call, or garbage, all that is our wounds. So the more that we heal, the more that all that gets cleared up. Really, like suddenly there's no cloud in the sky, and everything is so clear, and the mind becomes very quiet, and then the intuition is no longer so much like a whisper, but the intuition becomes a voice that you can hear very, very clearly. Yeah, and through that, our trust in our own knowing also strengthens. We begin to trust ourselves. Yeah, but this happens as a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens as a process of healing. And a healing container is one of the most amazing things we can have in our lives. I know because I've had so many of them. A healing container, working with a professional. And sometimes that professional might be one-on-one. Sometimes that professional might have retreats or groups like this, group work. Doesn't have to be a specific way. Yeah? But it needs to be someone that you can really trust, that you feel comfortable with, so that you can deepen in that relationship. Yeah? Yeah.
You mentioned like simple. You feel hungry, you go eat.
Very simple. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my mom brought up questions
Yeah.
about sacred intimacy
Yes.
and when you feel hungry and you go eat.
Yeah.
Sacred monogamy,
Yes.
more specifically.
Yeah.
So, what is this sacred monogamy relationship, and what happens if you feel hunger to someone?
If you feel hunger to what? To have other partners. So I'll give, my answer is always my answer, right? It's always a very personal answer. It may or may not help, it may or may not resonate, but my answer as Cenk is, so this energy that's been present in my life the last 12 months is getting very strong, right? These days, this simple way of living, very simple. In that simplicity, there is a very deep knowing, without any doubt, that each human being is an entire universe. I am an entire universe. Just imagine having one more entire universe in my life. Like my romantic partner, right? She is another entire universe. In my life, suddenly there's two. And I am wanting to get intimate and really explore both. One here, one there. This is already a lifetime undertaking. Lifetime. Maybe more than one life. This is a huge thing. It's limitless. It's infinite. Because it's not even so much about Cenk. It's about life. It's not even so much about them. Yes, there's a personal aspect here. But it's also about an exploration of love and God and sacredness. And then imagine bringing another one or two in there. It seems to me very absurd. It's like, you know how it seems like? It's as if instead of eating one meal at a time, it's as if I am trying to eat 10 meals, but at the same time. How absurd that seems. To me, that seems just as absurd, if not more absurd. But this is the way that it makes sense here, for me. Everyone will have their own reality and their own answers. So I'm like, life becomes so full and so fulfilling already that within the simplicity, one more universe is more than enough. It is already so much more than I can ever explore. So you see, then the mystery of the other person remains a mystery. Right? This other person remains a mystery. Life remains a mystery. My own internal work to myself also remains a mystery. So why the hunger? Right? The hunger doesn't come up. Because hunger comes up only when there is a feeling that what I already have is not enough. But what if this was already so much more than anyone could even handle? The immensity, the beauty of it. See, that's the paradigm that I'm talking about. And it cannot be understood. Yeah, by the intellect.
It's like, yeah, also a question I feel like I'm answering myself. Or
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to be in a relationship right now, which I can put it like in a way of, let's say, like on the one hand, I'm looking for like continuously and safety and being in a relationship which grows together. And on the other hand, like I would say, I feel like that part of me deeply agrees with you. Like,
About what?
With the part that you say.
That is already really satisfying.
More than you can ever explore.
Yeah.
I deeply agree with it.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just, I have a feeling that this would be the relationship that me or most people would love to have.
Yeah.
But when we are in that, it feels like it's not so easily reachable.
It's not what?
Not easy reachable. Like to find this, I would say, like to know that there's always potential. There's unlimited potential.
Sure.
But when we're in a relationship, we jump into borders.
It feels difficult.
Yeah,
and that difficulty is part of the path. That difficulty is part of our evolution. Literally. It's part of our healing. We are here to go through that difficulty. And I also see the way that you are. We are here to go even through the hunger. The hunger comes, and then we can explore the hunger. Usually the hunger comes from the child in us. But to see that opens up doors we didn't know even existed. Oh, my sexual hunger for other women, is it really originating from my wounding? Holy shit. What does that mean? What does that mean for our sexual evolution? What does that mean about casual dating? What does that mean about hookups? So there is so much to explore. It's so deep, it's so beautiful. It's all very sacred. There's no good or bad, right or wrong. But it's important to very honestly look at all of this. Very, very honestly. And when we fight something that is true, to own it. This is my truth. Right now, in this moment, this is my truth. And because this is my truth, I'm going to live it. Because if I know something is true for me and I'm not living it, that's self-betrayal. That's suffering. We are here to live our truth. And my truth is monogamy all the way. I'm living that truth all the way.
The feeling that this way of really finding the universe in each other, like the unlimitedness,
Yeah.
partly as a ground, as a basis,
Yeah.
needs like the healing all over inside, which opens up the potential.
Yeah. It also opens up the heart.
Yeah, otherwise
Yeah.
I feel like for me, like being in partnerships like that, there's always a wall.
There's always a wall.
Like we couldn't go further than here.
And sometimes that wall is our own conditioning, our own wounding. Sometimes the wall is the wounded child in us. Yeah? Whenever there's a wall, my suggestion to you would be just dive deeper. Just dive deeper. For me, that's how it's been. Whenever I hit a wall, every time I had to dive deeper. Continuously. Deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah? Yeah. Deeper into emotion, deeper into the quiet inside. Yeah? Any other thoughts or questions? Yeah?
My question is that to have like a sacred relationship, do you need to have two people who are committed at the same,
Yeah, I
the
think-
same intensity to the,
Yeah.
to the healing? Like let's say one is more committed.
This is a great question.
The other is like not so much.
So my experience has been that, and a lot of people, if the gap is too much, it doesn't work. They don't have to be the same person. They don't have to agree on everything about healing or spirituality. But if they are more or less on the same page and similar type of commitment, then there's a high likelihood that it's a good fit. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It can work in the short term. But once the honeymoon, all that energy is gone, then it doesn't work. Yeah. Because sometimes if the gap is too much, the conflicts, they become unresolvable. Yeah, they get stuck, yeah.
Just the obvious question.
Yes?
How does one attract or bring such a person who is uniquely balanced with you?
Yeah.
In their,
So what's...
I don't know, on so many different levels.
Yes, and I used to ask that question, right?
Yeah.
A lot. Because I've always wanted this kind of relationship, right? And these days, I'm single, and I am experiencing an energy in me where it doesn't even matter. Like, I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. Single, partnered, doesn't matter. And that's the freedom. And that is so wide open that if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There's no craving in it. There's no trying to strategize, this, that. There's no desperately waiting for it. There can still be a longing. There can still be like a soul desire for something very beautiful. But not because my life is not full now. No, my life was already beautiful and fulfilled and profound. But to share that with someone else in this intimate way would be really lovely. But it's not like I need it or it has to happen. You know?
Yeah.
And then we're just walking. We just wake up and leave home and we're not really expecting anything. And when we're not expecting, things tend to happen. But we're not expecting, right? And then if something happens, if a connection begins, then there is much less pressure on it. There's so much more freedom in it. And that's sacred intimacy. That's the sacredness, the spaciousness, that nothing has to happen. Even during sex, nothing has to happen. The more we try to run towards the orgasm, the less we have it. The more I crave, the less I have. So the whole energetic feeling is that we are simply here and already fulfilled. And when we are already fulfilled, pleasure comes to us. Orgasms come to us, right? So it's a complete paradigm shift. Yeah, complete. Yeah. It has nothing to do with society. Because society is conditioning. That's our conditioning. The way that we live is very conditioned through society. But this is beyond society. What that means is it's beyond fear. This is life beyond fear. No longer fear of loneliness, no longer fear of intimacy. Both are in the process of getting dissolved. Yeah, the grip of fear is going away, and then love-centered, being-centered, God-centered, or universe-centered, whatever, love or being, way of living begins. Within that, there's a feeling of already existing sacredness and wholeness, right? And life becomes so simple. It's not like we don't have preferences, but it's not about getting rid of preference. Yeah. One last question or comment. We are already over time.
The person feels the need for having a sex relationship.
For having what?
Sex relationship.
Sex is part of life. Sex is amazing.
There is no partner at this time. So what is the best way to handle this?
Wow, that's a very good question. So we are not in a relationship, but we feel sexual energy. What to do? Yeah. My answer to that might be a little radical, but there's no, sometimes nothing has to happen, So society says that, conditioning says that we have to do something with it. So, right? Sexual energy, we treat it like hunger. As if I'm hungry, I have to eat. Right? If I'm hungry, I have to eat. At that level of biological level, it makes a lot of sense. If I'm thirsty, I have to have some drink because I might die. With sex, it's not the same. But you explore that yourself. The body, because of conditioning usually, we have that craving. But when we are not in a relationship, when we cannot have sex in a connected, loving, whatever way with somebody, we can choose not to do anything about it. Sometimes what I do I just take a deep breath. And then 5 minutes later, the energy is gone. Or the energy just became life energy. It's no longer sexual. It's just life's own aliveness. In other words, the energy is no longer stuck in the pelvis. It gets transformed and it enlivens the entire physical structure, the entire energetic structure, instead of getting stuck in the genitals. Right? If it gets stuck in the genitals, it will look for an escape through the genitals. But there's a possibility for that energy to just be seen as life energy. Because ultimately, sexual energy is creative energy. Creative energy is God and life. It's the same. It's not exclusively sexual. It's life's own energy. Does that make sense? But I'm just giving you my point of view and what I have experienced. You can experiment it to see if that holds true for you. Right? Yeah? Great. Really nice question. Thanks. Okay. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. We are already way past time, 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. Okay.